infused with the scent of potpourri. The films we commit to memory. Crossing the felt ropes, watching from home on my TV, looking at all my eyes can see. They tell me I view obsessively.
Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show, each episode. You can find more of our work at obsessiveviewer.com. And while every episode will always be free, if you'd like to support what we do here, you can become a patron at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer for tons of bonus audio content, including TV and book reviews, immediate reaction movie reviews, Patreon potpourri episodes, movie commentary tracks, and much more. As well as early access to content. We just did a little chat with Sam, our guest, which I'll introduce here in a second with my voice cracking. We talked about rom-coms and 2001: A Space Odyssey, you know, the quintessential rom-com 2001: A Space Odyssey. So, I am your host, Matt Hurt, and you can find me on social media. That includes Letterboxd at Obsessive Viewer. And today on the show, we're closing out the year 2022, with a look at the 10 best films according to the Indiana Film Journalists Association, which I've been a member of since 2019. And joining me today to run down that list is returning guest Sam Watermeier, whose work, including a very great wonderful review of The Whale, can be found on Midwest Film Journal, and whose Letterboxd activity can be followed at letterboxd.com/SamMovieMan. Sam, welcome back to the show. How are you doing this evening?
Thank you for that warm welcome. I appreciate it. I am quite well because I am on the Obsessive Viewer.
Oh, nice.
Which is always a joy.
Nice.
And an honor, really, to be a guest on.
Well, thank you. I'm very pleased to hear that.
Yes,
I'm very pleased to know that I have tricked you into believing that. We're here at the end of the year. This is a special episode. I think technically it's maybe the first time I've done this where we're just talking about the 10 best films of 2022 from the IFJA. But it's kind of nice because you have made several appearances on the podcast this year, including the first episode of this year, aside from the year in review episode, which is traditionally our first episode of the year. But you were on for the Matrix Resurrections review, so it's nice to bookend the year with having you on the show. And thank you again for your time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah. And so what we're going to do is the way that the IFJA awards kind of play out is that we have a best film, a runner-up, and then in addition to a bunch of different categories. But for the best film, we have one film, the runner-up, and then eight entries that are collectively our 10 best movies as voted on by the IFJA. So we're going to talk about that, but I want to just kind of bend your ear a little bit, Sam, and ask how your year has been with movies and everything. And also, if you want to share kind of your history with the IFJA, you've been a member, I believe, much longer than I have. So what's your history with it, and how was your year?
Let's see. I was inducted in 2014.
Nice.
I didn't get to vote on that year's awards, but that was a great year for movies. The big ones being Boyhood, Whiplash, Foxcatcher, Life Itself, the Roger Ebert documentary, which was my favorite movie of that year.
Nice.
So I've been a voting member since 2015, and basically, I got in based on my work for the Film Yap and Nuvo News Weekly, which was kind of big in its day. It has evolved over time, and it's no longer in print, but it was kind of the like hipster weekly newspaper focused on arts coverage, and it had kind of a liberal bent to it. But let's see. My year in terms of watching movies. This was a cool year because I got some cool opportunities to see a few films in advance. Like for The Whale, I got to attend a pretty exclusive screening that Heartland had at Newfields, the Toby Theater at Newfields.
Nice.
They were screening it really to consider it for the festival. And it was just me, the artistic director, Greg Zorvig, and a few other staff members. And that was especially cool because that movie didn't really, and it still has played its cards pretty close to the vest in terms of marketing. There was really only one image of Brendan Fraser that was revealed before its release, and not much was written about it, so I really had no clue what to expect going in.
Nice.
And that just really that film just really bowled me over, and getting to see it in that exclusive way was kind of perfect, because the movie itself makes you feel like you're kind of eavesdropping on people and kind of getting this peek at their lives that maybe you're not supposed to see. So that was a cool opportunity. And then I really didn't. I feel bad because I missed a lot of movies that other IFJA members championed during the year, but I feel like I saw enough. I mean, enough to make a top 10 certainly. But I got to see The Batman early as well.
Yes.
I geeked out over that as a Batman fan. So,
and I feel like we were like the two members of the IFJA, it seemed like, where we were both floored by The Batman. You were on to review it with me on the podcast too. And like, it's just, that's one that I want to make sure I kind of have time to kind of revisit before the end of the year, but maybe I'll watch it tomorrow. I don't know. But anyway, it's really good.
Yeah, that was really exciting. Yeah, at the end of the screening, I was exhilarated.
Yeah.
And a lot of other members were not happy with it.
Right.
And I think at one point, as they were arguing about it, I said something like, you guys are bumming me out. I'm going home. But that's fine. To each their own.
Yeah.
It's fine. They can be wrong.
Right.
But getting to see that early was cool. It was at least like a month early, I think.
Yeah, it was pretty early. I'm not gonna bother. It was pretty early. I just remember that I got to the screening almost like I got in just as like the Batman like screen was on. Like it was like as I was walking in, I saw Riddler looking across the street at the was it the mayor? The guy's like penthouse apartment or whatever. And then I went home and I took a shower that day after the screening and lost my balance and fell out of the shower. And,
oh no.
Yeah, like to the ground, like fell, like I had a very big bruise on my arm. And then there was another screening. There was a second like advanced screening, and I was like, I'm going to go to that one too. And I was going to have Tiny be my +1. We were going to go. went and like I got into a just very, very, very minor like fender bender on the way there.
Oh no.
Yeah, and like it was like they just tapped the back, the car in front of me had stopped abruptly. I stopped. It was rainy. The car behind me stopped a little too late, and they just hit the back of the car. And then like we both got out, and then she's like I looked, and like her front end was like all damaged, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do. And she was, I was like, it looks like you got some damage there. And she's like, oh no, that was there before. And then I was like, okay.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. And like my car was fine. And then I was like, so what do you want to do? And she's like, do you just want to go? And I'm like, yeah, okay, let's go. Bye. So yeah, but I couldn't make it to the theater for that. So the Batman is cursed.
Yeah. Maybe you shouldn't watch it again.
I know. Right.
You're pushing your luck.
I am. But anyway, other movies and experiences this year that you had.
I guess we could have brought this up later, but I'll just go ahead and mention my friend Joshua Hull's movie Glorious came out this year, and he co-wrote it, and it was basically his baby from the beginning, and it went through some changes, but he stuck with it, through its production and to its final product. But seeing that come out and get the response it's gotten was really exciting, and I'm just really happy for him. That was going to be a little indie shoestring budget horror movie that he was going to film in the back of a brewery, and seeing it turn into something featuring an Academy Award winner like J.K. Simmons was just kind of surreal. And there was a special screening of it at the State Museum IMAX, and a trailer for Halloween Ends played before it. And the Halloween series means a lot to Josh, and just seeing that, I mean, it was like just watching someone's wildest dream come true, and that was quite a thrill for me to see.
Nice.
So, and it's such a strange movie to be so successful. Like it's about a kind of Lovecraftian creature who communicates through a glory hole and a rest stop. And it's gotten really good reviews. And it's just not a movie that you would expect to be kind of a sleeper hit, but that's what it's become, and that was another really cool experience.
I loved Glorious. I thought it was such a blast. I wish that I could have gone to that screening, but I wasn't available. But I know that you did like a Q&A with him, right? You moderated a Q&A.
I did, yeah.
That's awesome.
That was really fun, and kind of nerve-wracking because it was a pretty big crowd, actually.
Nice.
And it was in an IMAX theater, so that was a little intimidating. But I did it. Looking back, this was a pretty good year.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm like starting to remember a lot of cool movie related events that happened. And yeah, that was definitely one of the highlights.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know Josh personally or anything. I'm friends with him on social media, but I've said this before, but just like his passion for not only horror but just film in general and horror in general really is like intoxicating. Like to see him have that level of success and everything is just is so cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And he I don't know, I feel like we're similar in that I tend to enjoy most of what I watch.
Yeah.
And he just seems to love everything, and it's really kind of endearing.
Yeah.
And I think his passion for movies and and his kind of love for everything comes from being a filmmaker and kind of struggling on that path. And he's a real, he's a cool guy.
Nice. Yeah. I I had a really quick message from a friend saying that Twitter isn't working for me. Is this it? Is Twitter down for you? Is this it? Is it over? But I don't think it is. But and just the thing that I kind of keep coming back to with Josh Hull's whole career and everything is that he's in Indiana. He lives here, and he's doing all of this from here, and that's really cool. So, yeah.
I mean, to see the kind of success that Glorious has had, which he got to experience from a distance. I mean, he was the co-writer. I don't think he was on the set during the production, but how cool would that be to sit here in Indiana and watch, J.K. Simmons deliver your dialogue?
Yeah,
and it's really inspiring.
Oh, absolutely.
So that was a really cool highlight of the year for me.
Nice. So we're going to talk about the movies and everything that's on the best film list per the IFJA, but I know that on Facebook you posted your kind of top 10 and everything. Did you want to run down that on the podcast to kind of give you an outlet to count down your top 10 movies?
Sure.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, I will yield the floor to your top 10 list of 2022.
Okay, I'll for to increase the drama, I'll go 10 to 1.
Nice.
10 is Halloween Ends.
Nice.
I just thought I was so satisfied by the end of it. Our fellow IFJ member Lou Harry just released a piece on the year in film, and he kind of went with movies that ended perfectly. And to me, Halloween Ends is a film like that. Spoiler alert, it closes on a shot of Michael Myers' mask resting on a coffee table as Don't Fear the Reaper plays. And it's just like such a chef's kiss of an ending.
Yeah.
And it's for a sequel to be as idiosyncratic as it is, was really refreshing. I mean, most of the movie doesn't even focus on Michael Myers.
Oh, yeah.
So that's pretty bold, especially for the concluding chapter of a trilogy, to just detour into a completely different direction. I thought that was great. I think that's all I need to say about that. Let's see. 9, the Banshees of Inisherin.
Yes.
The thought of, or the idea of a movie revolving around the falling out of two friends, and for it to play up the comedy of that, the sort of awkwardness of it, I thought was just a great concept that I've really never seen before. And I know this is reaching a bit, but I think it's kind of timely. We live in a time where friendships end with the click of a mouse. You unfriend someone, you block them, and this movie really shows the weight or the consequences of ending a long time relationship in a time when we're kind of casually cruel about it. So I thought that was interesting. And it's just really funny and bittersweet, and I think it's one of Colin Farrell's best performances, as well as one of Brendan Gleeson's best performances.
Oh yeah.
So that's number 9. Let's see. Number 8 is Tar. I'll save that for the IFJA discussion. So let's see. 7 is We're All Going to the World's Fair.
Yeah.
It was actually it was one of the last movies I watched in our old apartment.
Oh, nice.
It was like a couple nights before we moved. So I was already kind of anxious, which is a great way to feel when watching that movie.
Yeah, right.
Because it's sort of about online anxiety and it sort of has the feel of a horror movie, but I wouldn't really describe it as a horror movie.
Right.
It's sort of about just putting yourself out there in cyberspace and just laying bare your identity as you're trying to figure it out. I think the internet is kind of a terrible place to try to form your identity.
Yes.
Because of, just the toxicity of it. And, that's really what the movie is about. It's, I guess you could categorize it as like a desktop movie, kind of like Host or Unfriended.
Yeah. Like a Screen Life movie, like Searching.
Screen Life, yeah. And I think it's one of the most effective ones I've seen. So yeah, that would be number 7. Let's see, 6 is Bones and All.
Interesting. Yeah, I wasn't that hot on it, but that's interesting.
I just I thought it was a great road movie. It was a great sort of, I wanted it to be more of a chase thriller. The characters, the 2 lead characters are kind of, running from authorities, but they also come across some kind of creepy cannibals who are really limited to only one scene, and I feel like more could have been done with those characters. But I really enjoyed it. It's just a really bittersweet, beautiful sort of love story, and it kind of reminded me of Monster.
Oh yeah, that's I don't know why I didn't make that connection, but yeah.
Yeah, just it's just in terms of characters traveling through kind of America's butt crack, and kind of slowly falling in love under fucked up circumstances. So yeah, that would be my number 6. Number 5 is Top Gun Maverick.
Nice. Which we'll talk about, but yeah.
Yeah. I saw that at the State Museum IMAX, which was
nice.
Fucking magnificent.
I wish I got to I saw it at Castleton in Dolby, so I did get to see it in a premium format, but I wish I could have seen that at the State Museum, because oh yeah, that was something else. That was really cool.
That movie is just like, it's just so badass.
Yeah.
And like, I don't give a fuck that Tom Cruise is a weirdo.
Oh yeah.
Dude is an action god.
It's insane. Like when he posted the behind the scenes footage of the stunt for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 this past week, the 9-minute behind the scenes video, I'm like, yeah, I posted about it, and I think I've said this before many times, and I will continue to say this. That I don't think there is a single person in the film industry who is more committed to blockbuster entertainment than Tom Cruise. Like, I don't like, yeah, he is certifiably insane. He has some fucked up thoughts and fucked up beliefs and everything, but the dude jumped a motorcycle off a cliff several times in one day just for a stunt in a movie. Like, I'm good in that case. I'm good with separating the art from the artist, and everything, because holy shit, man.
Oh, totally. And like these action movies that he does could easily rely on CGI.
Yeah.
But he fucking does it for real.
Yes.
And it's like, that's him in a real fucking jet.
Yep.
Fucking flying. Like, I don't know. It's like Top Gun is basically a response to CGI heavy movies, and it's like, this shit is for real, candy asses.
Yes.
It's just like pure badassery.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so Top Gun Maverick. I'm going on a bit of a rant. I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna rip my shirt off if I go on any longer about it. Number 4 is the Batman.
Nice.
It was actually my lady Jin's cinematic introduction to Batman.
I remember
she had never seen a Batman
that
movie.
Okay, that's so interesting to me, because I know how much Batman as a character is to you. Like, I know how much you love Batman and everything. That's surprising to me, that this was her introduction to him on a cinematic level.
Well, I showed her the introduction of Michael Keaton's Batman. And she said his delivery of "I'm Batman" is bad, which is so fucking wrong that I'm considering getting a divorce. But not really. Everyone calm down. I think this is a really interesting way to experience Batman for the first time, though, cinematically. Yeah. To me, it's really the only one that makes Batman scary like he should be. You know, there's this great montage early on where he kind of explains his nightly routine and how the bat signal works, and you see criminals looking over their shoulders in fear, and that's such an awesome introduction to him, and it really captures, you know, how scary he's trying to be, and I was just hooked from there. And you know, it's just fucking awesome. It's and I'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
Let's see. Where are we now? Number 3.
Number 3. Yeah.
Number 3 is RRR. I'll leave that for the IFJA discussion. Let's see. Number 2 is Glorious. Already talked about that. And my number 1 is The Whale.
Nice.
No other movie lingered with me quite like that one did. It just it leaves you with this strange sense of dread and hope, that you know, just kind of lingers with you for a long time after it's over. And I think it's you know, it revolves around a type of character we haven't really seen on screen before, or at least haven't seen portrayed very sensitively before, and you know, it's in a single setting, and it's kind of a claustrophobic chamber drama, and it just I think it's a really unique movie. I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen anything quite like it, and I know it's based on a play and everything, but yeah, The Whale's my number one.
Nice, well done. And The Whale is. It's a shame that it kind of got pretty much completely shut out of the IFJA awards, but it was nominated in several categories. But ask anyone online, the IFJA nominates everything. But but that's a movie that it stuck with me, and even more so, it was perplexing to me to see a lot of the negative backlash against it, or the knee-jerk reactions online toward it, saying that it's fatphobic and that it is gratuitous in its depiction of obesity and everything. And like, I came away from it just thinking that could not be further from the point of the movie. Like, it's not a movie that's depicting this character. It's not Nutty Professor 2. It's not The Clumps. It's not whatever the movie in Tropic Thunder was. I can't remember the one of the like farting character things or whatever. But it's not that. It's like, it is like, and I've kind of screamed into the void about this, but it's about a man who is committing himself to this physical prison through this grief that he feels, and this it's this mental illness that manifests itself through, like, in the grief, and manifests into this just like, the only source of comfort is the punishment that he gives himself in binge eating and everything. And like, it is one of the most tragic and heartbreaking depictions of someone who cannot, who has all of the hope and all of the optimism for the world around them, but does not have anything but self-loathing within them. And it's this incredible balancing act between these two ideas and everything that's brought to life really well by Darren Aronofsky. And Brendan Fraser, of course, is everything. Every accolade that he's received has been completely warranted because it's incredible. But it's frustrating to see people kind of dismiss it as like, oh, it's making fun of fat people, it's making fun of obesity, it's doing this, or it just seeing the surface level of it. It's just so kind of frustrating and irritating to me. So,
well said. And
thank you.
I would say it would only be fatphobic if the characters were constantly talking about his weight,
right?
Which they really don't.
No.
I mean, yes, that is a key part of the movie, but it's about so much more. I mean, it's about, estrangement. It's about, fathers and daughters. It's about husbands and wives. It's about intolerance and, and empathy, but a lot of those themes, they're not only filtered through discussions about his weight.
Right.
So I don't really understand the idea that it's fatphobic.
No.
And it's all handled with the utmost sensitivity.
Oh, yeah.
To me, I guess you could argue that there's kind of a nightmarish binge eating sequence that could be considered exploitative, but I mean, I feel like we need to see that on screen because that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think it's important to see that eating can be a serious addiction. it's too often portrayed as kind of a silly thing, like,
Yeah.
haha, they're shoving their faces with food. Haha. How is that any? I mean, how is that any different than drinking or doing
Yeah.
drugs? I mean, we need to see that portrayed in a serious manner. I'm getting so fucking upset. I'm just kidding.
Well, to that point about like it not showing it in a comedic way or in a even not even a judgmental way even, but like the go-to comparison, and I've said this before elsewhere, but I've said that like it's not like something like a not objectively, but a pretty terrible movie like Green Book. Like, I'm not a fan of Green Book. I thought it was crappy. It did not deserve the Oscar or anything. But like Viggo Mortensen takes a New York style large pizza, folds the entire thing in half and starts eating it like a taco. And it's supposed to be a bit of levity and humor and stuff. It's really dumb because that movie's really dumb. But like my jokey thing is that Viggo Mortensen folded that pizza in half so that Brendan Fraser can put two slices on top of each other and eat them at the same time. But it's in the context of the whale has something to say about it, and it is so much more. There's so much more context and depth and texture to what the entire story is telling, and then people kind of lump it together with the kind of Viggo Mortensen folding a pizza in half sort of thing. Like, haha, this person is eating something that is, they're binge eating and everything. And it's just like, it's completely different things, two completely different things. And people are seem to be just kind of completely disregarding or ignoring the actual point of the whale, maybe because it's about obesity, and maybe there's that kind of ingrained judgment toward obesity, like, because you drew the comparison to like alcoholism, drug abuse, and everything. Like, that is something that I feel like there's this level of there's this abject misunderstanding in our society that, oh, obese people can like, why don't they just not be obese? Like, okay, yeah, well, I get that. There are eating disorders. Like, there are addictions that would need to be, like, it's not as simple as that. Whereas, like, no one would ever say that about, like, oh, why don't they just not do drugs? Why don't they just not drink alcohol? Like, it is for some people, it is an addiction. And in this case, the whale, it is the physical manifestation of all of the pain that he feels inside him, and the fact that no one can, that certain vocal people, on Letterboxd really, choose not to see that is so frustrating, because it's magnificent.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
And I would add that, if these people think the binge eating sequence is funny, frankly, that's on them.
Yeah.
That's their problem. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's not a problem with, how that scene is executed.
Right.
Because it's treated as a complete fucking nightmare.
Oh yeah.
So, like, if you think that's making fun of his binge eating, like, that's your issue,
right?
But yeah, it's just I mean, obesity has rarely, if ever, been portrayed very respectfully,
right,
on screen. And to me, the whale was really refreshing in its depiction, and kind of restored my faith in humanity a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Very good list. Like I'm really glad that that I'm glad to see and it's funny because like as much as I've talked about The Whale and everything, I mean I think in my opinion this year has been really very strong for movies for me personally. I've had at times the easiest and the hardest way of figuring out my top 10 for the year. Because there's been just a bunch of very, very good movies this year. So, but The Whale, like I love that movie, but it's also like, it's going to be like my number 10, I think. And not for any reason against it. It's just this year has been very strong. So, yeah. Let's see. So did you want to dive into the best film list per the IFJA?
Yes, please.
Nice. Let's see. Okay. So the way that we have it figured out here is that, like I said, the IFJA awards a winner for best film, a runner-up, and then 8 finalists to all told make up a top 10 list for the year. What we're going to do is we're going to discuss the 8 finalists, and then we're going to do the runner-up, and then we're going to do the winner of best film. Now, Sam, you have not seen some of these movies. Full disclosure.
Yeah,
for a listener.
I was a slacker.
Yeah, it's totally fine. It's actually works out very well for me because I'm going to be a shameless self-promoter. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about the movies that we both saw over the year, in the finalist list. And for the movies that Sam has not seen, I'm going to throw it to a clip of me talking about it at some point in the year on the Obsessive Viewer Patreon, which again, I'll go ahead and push for it here. Support us on Patreon. We have several different tiers. The $1 tier gets you early access to content and B-roll recordings we record before each episode. And then the $2 tier gets you that, plus TV and book reviews. I think immediate reaction recordings go on the $2 level, and a bunch of other stuff too. And then the $5 level gets you all of that, plus commentary tracks and Patreon potpourri, which is me talking about several movies all in one go, full length episodes. And then the $10 level gets you all of that, plus a monthly wrap up kind of recording where I talk about my first viewings of the month, of each individual month, and first viewings. Did I say that? Yeah, and viewing stats for the viewing and podcasting and writing stats. It's a fun, self-indulgent, stupid thing that I do each month. And then also I play around with the audio equipment a little bit, so you get audio tests at the $10 level. So anyway, all the money goes to pay the fees to keep the podcast running and to feed my cat. So check that out, patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. I'm going to be, I'll be teeing up the recording clips and everything, but as we get to the movies that we're going to talk about and everything, but Sam, I want us to get kicked off with Todd Fields' film starring Cate Blanchett, Tar. How did you feel about Tar? It's the first finalist we're covering here on the list. How'd you feel about Tar?
I saw it in the theater at the Keystone Art Cinema, and honestly, I didn't leave with an immediate reaction. I wasn't like, oh man, I loved that.
Okay.
I was a little conflicted about it. Because early on I found the character of Lydia Tarr extremely off-putting. And I realized that's the point. Everyone calm down. I realize that's the point. It still doesn't make it easy to watch her, though.
Yeah.
She is very pretentious. She does that obnoxiously throaty pronunciation of Bach, where it's like
Yes.
Bach, Bach. It's like, just say Bach, you fucking. It was just she's a very specific kind of person that after a few scenes, I was like, I really don't know if I want to spend 2 hours with this character. Like, I can't stand this person.
Yeah.
And again, I realize that's the point. Anyway, though, as it went on, it turns into this really interesting kind of meditation on cancel culture, the Me Too movement, I started getting into it as she is sort of Me Too'd by her behavior and a few things she does publicly. Spoiler alert, there's she near the end of the movie, she crashes a concert and shoves the conductor off stage. And that was really interesting to see in the wake of the Will Smith slap.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's true.
And, obviously the movie was written well before that.
Right.
It's kind of interestingly prophetic. And it has one of the strongest endings of the year, I think. She is sort of exiled, and she finds herself conducting in is it Vietnam?
Yeah.
Oh, if I'm revealing too much, I can shut up.
I was just gonna say, maybe we could save a little bit for the listeners to discover. But yeah.
Oh, you don't want me to give away the entire movie?
I mean, sure.
Okay, I'll say this. I'll leave it subtle. I realize I'm being kind of an ass.
Oh, no, not at all.
Let's just say that it ends with this initially towering figure of Lydia Tarr seeming very small, and it kind of shows the the awkward silence that can befall us when we separate artists from their art and see them kind of stripped. And yeah, I'll just say that. I'll leave it there.
Okay. Yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed Tar. I loved it. And most of all, I loved it for the performance. Kate Blanchett's performance was out of this world, and the script is just so tightly written in terms of dialogue, in terms of pacing, in terms of general storytelling and everything, but in particular the dialogue. And the thing that really struck me, and I've talked about this on Letterboxd and on my top 10 list post that it's going to be posting on Obsessive Viewer, but basically what I kind of can't get over is the fact that is how that opening scene with her being interviewed on stage in front of a crowd and her just espousing about the inner, like the history of conductors and like the stuff that she does and everything. And that was so captivating to me. And then I read somewhere, like someone else's Letterboxd review talking about how it's a brilliant scene because it's really kind of keying us into the fact that she maybe doesn't really know shit about what she's talking about, and that it's more just part of her performance and in her her rise to that stature and everything, because it's very much the opening of the movie is the interviewer just spouting off all of her accolades and explaining, like, positioning her to be like the major force of the classic music conductor industry or whatever. And my Alexa just went off. But yeah, it's something that is just really, really engrossing. And then as the movie unfolds and you see her just be chipped away and her downfall, it's such an interesting companion to an extent to Whiplash from 2014. It just feels,
I hadn't considered that. That's interesting.
Yeah, and they have very different endings, but I feel like the journey between like the most toxic characters in both of those movies is really, really kind of tied together to an extent. Or they kind of complement each other a little bit, but I think that Tar does it in such a way that is very much showing just how toxic the toxicity is. And I don't know. I feel like I'm spouting off some word salad, but it's really, really, it's really cool. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Anything else on Tar?
I think we've said it.
Yep. All right. Well, that is our thoughts on our thoughts on Tar. That is the first of our 8 finalists in the IFJA Best Films list of 2022. Next up, I'm going to throw it to a Patreon recording where I talked at length about Kogonada's film After Yang. So I'm going to throw it to that Patreon clip. That comes from Patreon Potpourri number 14, which I dubbed Sci-Fi Duos. I reviewed After Yang and I think, is it Riley Stearns' movie Duel? So that was from July 2022. So enjoy this clip of me talking about After Yang and consider checking out Patreon, patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. So here we go, a clip from Patreon. All right, and next up, I'm going to be talking about After Yang, which is written and directed by Kogonada, who previously did Columbus a couple of years ago with John Cho and Haley Lou Richardson. After Yang is based on the short story Saying Goodbye to Yang by Alexander Weinstein. It stars Colin Farrell, Jodie Turner-Smith, Malia Emma Jaja, Clifton Collins Jr., and Haley Lou Richardson. In the plot summary, courtesy of IMDb, is in a near future, a family reckons with questions of love, connection, and loss after their AI helper unexpectedly breaks down. And of course, I'm going to do a non-spoiler review for this episode, for this special Patreon recording. So I'm going to go ahead and play a clip from the trailer for After Yang now, and then I'm going to talk about my feelings about this movie when I come back.
Come on, Yang. What are you doing? Come on.
What happened to Yang?
I don't know. He shut down last night. He won't restart.
Has this happened before?
No.
If we can't get Yang fixed, we're not gonna buy another sibling for Mika.
So, After Yang is the first 2022 release that I've watched this year, in which I rated it 5 stars on Letterboxd. This movie is incredible, you guys, so much so that it really makes me want to go back and revisit Columbus, because when I saw it a couple of years ago, I thought it was okay, or a few years ago at this point. I thought it was okay. I didn't quite get it. I didn't get like the deeper messaging behind it or anything, but After Yang just kind of blew my mind a little bit. It kind of blew my hair back. It's just this incredible story about many different aspects of like kind of humanity. The kind of easy, or not really easy, but like the most notable one is grief. Obviously, it's a pretty hot topic in media these days, but the way that it explores grief and how the family kind of reckons with their AI just dying is really, really interesting, because from the start, Colin Farrell plays the father, the patriarch of the family. He sells tea. He's got like a tea shop, and he is like his first order of business with getting Yang, or reacting to Yang shutting down, is to try to get him repaired, get him fixed. And they go through this whole rigmarole of trying to get him fixed. And when they realize that they can't, that's when it kind of hammers home, or comes down, or kind of comes home to them that like, oh, they've lost this member of their family. And the daughter, this young girl, has to deal with that. And what I really respect about this movie is that it doesn't deal with that level of grief directly. It just has that as like the kind of normal, like there's a normalcy to it. There's this underlying thing that, yes, they need to get Yang fixed, or they need to get Yang fixed. That is the thing. And what's really interesting is that they kind of come to realize, or at least Jake comes to realize, that Yang was a much more pivotal part of the family. And it's not something that it's not like he's going through the movie thinking like, oh yeah, well, this robot crapped out, so oh wait, yeah, he was my son. It wasn't really like that, but it's much more subtle and much more respectful than that, and it's more tailored to this humanity in the characters. And it's so interesting to me, because there's a part of the plot. I'm going to be as non-spoiler as I can. I promise I'm not going to spoil anything too pivotal, but there's an element to the story that involves Yang's memories. And as they are trying to get him repaired, or get him reactivated, or get him whatever, there is an element where they have the opportunity to see his memories. It's this whole spyware thing. Also, I really love the way that there's a subtlety to the futurism in the movie that I found really compelling and well done. So there's an element of the story where they can see Yang's memories, and it's this kind of, it has this kind of paranoid aspect to it, like, it's spyware that they are doing for data analytics and everything, like all that stuff. But that's a passing element of the story. But in seeing Yang's memories, Jake gets this not even newfound, but it's more like he is exploring this person who was a part of his life and a surrogate son to him throughout his existence. And he learns so much about him, and it tells this story of such an interesting and deep and rich story of a life lived, an existence that mattered. That's far more important than what the characters in the movie refer to as techno-sapiens. It's so much deeper than that, because this is a human existence. This is an existence that has feelings. This is a person, or this is a living being who has dreams and aspirations. And the way that it explores that is so beautifully done. It's just so beautiful, and so beautiful. And when Haley Lou Richardson's character enters the picture, I won't give away anything really about her, but when she kind of enters the picture and we get to know her, it just kind of blows the movie open a little bit, and it gives this kind of sense of a world, like world building without really building much world. There is like a couple of one-off remarks about how Haley Lou Richardson's character and one of the neighbor characters are different than Jake and his family. And it just has this kind of deep-seated kind of anger or resentment through it, or prejudice really is what it gets at. And it's just so rich, and it tells so much about it. It reminds me in a big way to one of my favorite movies of all time, really, Her from 2013 from Spike Jonze. It reminds me of that movie in several instances because the world building, the futuristic, like futurism and everything is low key and kind of in the background. And what the movie does as a result of having that kind of be in the background is it explores the human element of the story. It explores the humanity of the characters and their experience to tell a story about a just universal human experience, several facets of it even, through this science fiction kind of framework. And it's just so well done, and the emotion of it just lands so hard and so beautifully. Another big thing about this movie that I absolutely adored was the score. Throughout the movie, the music is absolutely stunning. It is very, very emotionally driven. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the music in Arrival. It just reminds me of It's the kind of score that really helps elevate the emotional aspect of the story. And yeah, it's so beautiful. And there's even an element of the story that plays into Jake and his wife, their characters being kind of absentee parents to an extent. Like there's a scene where Jodie Turner Smith, I think, says to Colin Farrell, we've become too reliant on Yang anyway, so, and we're not going to get a new one, but we've become way too reliant on Yang, and that is evident by the fact that their young daughter has arguably a stronger bond with the AI than she does with her parents. And that leads to this just beautiful moment where Jake is watching the memories of Yang's memories and seeing like his daughter growing up in certain respects, growing up through the eyes of Yang. And this is kind of compounded by the fact that both he and his wife work a lot, and that's where this line comes from, where she says that they relied too much on Yang. So with the loss of Yang, they are now finding themselves, and this isn't like a focal point of the movie, this is more just kind of enhancing the major themes of the story. But a part of losing Yang is that they are now interacting more with their daughter, and they have a chance to be a bigger part of her life and everything. And part of that bigger part of her life is to kind of help her through the loss of Yang and be there for her as she mourns, by all accounts, a sibling. And there's a lot of stuff in this movie as well that I'm probably not the best person to dive into, but a lot of it is about identity and who you are versus who society deems you to be, and who you're culturally who you are. So Yang is an artificial intelligence, an android robot that is culturally specific. It is programmed for families who adopt Chinese babies, and it is designed and programmed so that the robot can teach the child about their Chinese heritage. So there's a scene where there's an incredible scene where Mika, the young girl, the adopted daughter of Colin Farrell and Jodie Turner Smith, where she says to Yang in kind of a flashback, and she said she's upset because of school, and she says that, oh yeah, kids at school at recess said that my parents aren't my real parents. And then Yang like takes her through like this garden and shows her trees and shows her like a branch that's attached to a tree that it didn't grow from, and how that is this I don't remember exactly like the words that he used or anything, but it's this technique that's used in gardening and used in agriculture that dates back thousands and thousands of years to like China from thousands of years ago. That is a horticultural thing where it basically creates something new out of two different things. And he explains that that's what you are. You are like, you're a part of the family. You didn't necessarily come directly from the family, but you are a part of the family. And that is really interesting to me as someone who kind of see like who has no bearing on that or anything, obviously, as just a white man. But I just find that to be really interesting because it's something that is really kind of just it's something that gives so much texture to the story and gives so much texture to the identity part of the story. And another part of that as well, and to a certain extent, is a scene with Colin Farrell in the memory talking to Yang and explaining the tea business and saying, like, Yang is asking him, like, oh, you like, what drew you to tea? What made you devote your life to tea? Because he sells tea. He's like, well, I didn't really devote my life to it, but I saw this documentary when I was a kid or when I was in college, and it really made me interested in it. And then Yang is like, oh, I have all of these facts about tea and everything. And then they both sip the tea because Jake says that it's said that tea can... part of the anecdote from the documentary was that he could see like someone in the documentary that he watched that influenced him to go into the tea making business, said that like every step, like every tea leaf can carry a world in it or something. And so then they both taste the tea to see if they can feel like anything profound or anything with it. And Jake does it just so gently and so with such reverence, and then Yang reacts to it and says, I wish that there was something more than just facts about Chinese tea in my mind. Like, I wish that I could experience the way that you can. But I just found that to be just so compelling because that's an interesting, that's such a unique perspective to have, because he is a character who is he's a robot. He's an artificial intelligence, and he recognizes that he can't taste the tea the way that Colin Farrell can taste the tea. And it's such an interesting blend of, human and what they're calling in the movie as technosapiens. And it's just really, really interesting the way that it just plays with that disparity, I guess, or that difference between them. And in that same scene, Colin Farrell says that, back in, like tea companies and everything are passed down generation to generation. So, I should probably teach you the tools of the trade and everything. And it's just that like acceptance of an artificial intelligence, of a robot as his son, is just beautiful and powerful and incredible. I just find that to be really, really interesting and thought-provoking. There was another point that I was going to make, but I'm completely blanking on it. I think, I don't know. But this was just an incredible movie that I'm not prepared to really dive that deep into, because I watched it. I finished watching it about 20 minutes ago, and it kind of blew me away. It's really, really incredible. That was the other scene. There was a scene with Colin Farrell and Haley Lou Richardson where he's found out that Yang had this entirely other life that he wasn't aware of. He had like a companionship with Haley Lou Richardson. And Colin Farrell asks her, did Yang ever talk about wanting to be human? Did he ever think that he should be, like, did he ever wish that he was a human? It's that old, I wish I was a real live boy thing. And what the movie does is so cool because it just spins that on its ear. And Haley Lou Richardson says, like, that's such a human thing. Like, yeah, this creature must want to be like you. It's so arrogant and everything. Like, that's the ultimate goal of this thing, is to be a human. Like, how arrogant is that? And I just love that so much because that's such an easy thing to try to put into the movie. Like, oh, he wants to be a human. He wants to be a human being, but he can't because of his programming. But instead of diving into that or leaning into that, it just becomes about something else entirely and has all of this depth and richness to it that is just so much more worth exploring because it reflects like the human element, the human aspect of storytelling and the human experience in such a unique and interesting way. So anyway, I loved this movie. Again, the score was incredible. The performances were fantastic. The visuals were just jaw-droppingly beautiful. Like, this is an incredibly beautiful film. So I definitely recommend checking it out. Obviously, it's available to rent on Vudu and available to stream on Showtime. So I'm gonna end this Patreon potpourri here. Okay, and we're back. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And then next up in our finalist list is Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, which, Sam, you have not seen this yet, right?
No, I'm a fucking loser.
No, you're not. I'm very excited for you to see it, though. I feel like you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of it. How'd you feel about the first Knives Out movie?
Oh, I loved it.
Nice.
Yeah, I just absolutely loved it. I thought it was a blast. So I am looking forward to this one. Nice.
I think you'll really, really enjoy it. But I obviously reviewed the movie on the podcast. And let me see. So I reviewed that I think it was the most recent episode of the podcast, episode 386 with our friends and colleagues Andy Carr and Mitch Ringenberg. So check out that review on the podcast. But I'm going to go ahead and throw it to a short minute and a half clip of me talking about it on Patreon. This comes from my November 2022 monthly first viewings and stats wrap-up recording, which is I hope that I didn't check to see how this is. This might just be me saying, hey, check out the review on Obsessive Viewer, but this comes from the $10 Patreon tier. So here we go. My thoughts on Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. And then at number 2, I reviewed it on Obsessive Viewer. It's Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. 4.5 stars. Netflix very stupidly just put it in theaters for 1 week. So now you guys will wait until December 23rd to see it if you haven't seen it yet. But I really liked it. I thought the ensemble was fantastic. The return of Benoit Blanc is very good. Ryan Johnson and Daniel Craig are an incredible team that I think I would watch a ton of these movies if they make a ton of them. I know they're going to make a third one, but I just want them to keep making these movies because they are just such a delight. While the movie does kind of fall into the same narrative tropes and ideas presented in the first movie, it does so in a bigger, more expansive kind of platform, I guess. And as I said in the review on Obsessive Viewer, I kind of feel like it's like the first movie, Knives Out. I mean, that's damn near perfect in my eyes. I love that movie so much. But Knives Out is like the family reunion from hell, and Glass Onion is like the high school reunion from hell. So that's kind of the difference of the ensemble characters and everything. And this is it's really interesting the ways that it plays with the whodunit narrative and everything. I really liked it. Okay. And I hope this isn't too awkward for you, Sam.
No, I'm
Okay.
good.
Okay, good. So Knives Out Mystery and everything. Oh yeah, it's interesting because Rian Johnson has come out and said that he absolutely hates that it has the subtitle A Knives Out Mystery, which I do. I kind of hate that too. I think it's a little clunky, but I kind of like it, kind of don't. But do you have any thoughts on that, or?
Well, I'm not sure why they couldn't. Well, I mean, think about like those Agatha Christie movies. Like those don't have a subtitle.
No.
But everyone knows that those are connected by the same detective character. So why? I don't know. Was that a Netflix choice?
I feel like it was. I think so. I really think so. But I mean, I loved the movie. I really did. And I think I came out of the theater. I've seen it twice now, and I came out of the theater thinking that I never want Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig to stop making these movies, because it is just absolute gold. It's really good. Not to build it up for you or anything, but it is the single defining film experience of this generation or the next generation.
Oh, wow.
But no, it's really good.
No, I will watch it eventually.
Nice. But a movie that you have seen that you did talk about as well, but let's dive a little bit deeper into it. It is Martin McDonagh's, I don't know how to pronounce his name, The Banshees of Inisherin. I'm going to go ahead and read the plot summary because I just have it in front of me. Two lifelong friends find themselves at an impasse when one abruptly ends their relationship with alarming consequences for both of them. So I saw this movie in the theater. It was the first of a planned, no, it was the second. I don't know. I think it was the first. Who cares? Anyway, it was the first of a triple bill that I saw. I saw The Banshees of Inisherin, Till, and Smile back to back to back. And
oh wow, eclectic.
Yes. And then hey, I'll throw out a Patreon push, but then I recorded a Patreon potpourri where I also talked about the documentary Hold Your Fire, and I titled it Hold Your Fire Till the Banshees of Inisherin Smile. So I was very proud of that. But
the plugging of Patreon is just fucking shameless.
Oh, I don't care one bit.
I know. I'm just messing with you.
No, I know. No, I know. I have a problem. But no, The Banshees of Inisherin. It's funny because I went into it not really knowing much about the plot, really at all. Like I know that. I knew that it was reteaming the filmmaker with Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell after In Bruges, which I loved, but I don't remember much of because I haven't seen it since probably it came out. So I didn't really know what to expect with The Banshees of Inisherin, but I was very much pleased with it. What did you think in more specific words about The Banshees of Inisherin?
I loved it. Like I said earlier on, I think a movie revolving around, the breakup, if you will, of two friends is just a great concept. It's just like inherently fun. And I don't really know if I've seen anything quite like this movie. It was nice to see him enter somewhat gentler territory after Three Billboards, which is kind of a rough, bleak movie. I mean, I think The Banshees of Inisherin is bleak in its own way. But it's cool. It has the feeling of like a folk tale, and just the setting feels so lived in, and you can really feel the weight of the relationships within the village, and you can kind of sense the tension in the air. And I thought it was very funny. It's not like a laugh out loud romp or anything, but I think it's very funny. In term, I haven't seen After Yang, but I think it's probably one of Colin Farrell's best performances. He and Brendan Gleeson are just great together.
Oh, absolutely.
They really feel like lifelong friends, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm glad it's on our top 10 list.
Me too. And when I was in the theater, and like I said, I didn't know much about it going in at all. But when I was in the theater, when I was in the seat, I was sitting there, and as it was playing out, like, and I know that this is probably going to sound so dumb, but just the kind of the confidence that the film had with telling its story just felt so comforting and so wonderful, because it was just so well constructed at the every level, really. And it's driven by these two just incredible performances. And Colin Farrell, like, again, it is, like you said, it's one of his best performances. And I'm like, one of his best performances in the last, 15 minutes, too, because he has so much going on in 2022. But he just captures this confused sort of, like, people call him dull and everything. It is so what's the word I'm looking for? It not enchanting, but like endearing. Yeah. It's endearing without being obnoxious, or it's very understated, really. And then you also have the supporting performance of Barry Keoghan, which like just blew it out of the water for me. Like he was phenomenal. And the lengths that this movie goes to, that it goes into this weird, like almost absurdist style thing, but still maintaining both the melancholy of the drama and the seriousness of the drama as well. And it is such an interesting movie that I really was not expecting going into it, because I didn't know what to expect. But yeah,
it's funny because it's like a you could easily see it being the concept for like a classic Farrelly Brothers movie, or like something Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson would do, or something like that. But it's there is a sophistication to it. I have to share a little funny anecdote about when I saw it. Afterwards, there were some older folks talking about it, and this one lady said something along the lines of, why couldn't they just schedule alone time for themselves and just, break up the time they spent with each other, just like rearrange their schedule throughout the week. And I was like, yeah, that would have solved the conflict of the movie.
Yeah. And that's actually really, to sidetrack us completely, it's something that I've meant to mention on the podcast before. But it's funny. This is a complete tangent and everything, but that reminds me that months and months ago, like maybe over a year ago at this point, Tiny, my co-host, he on Patreon we did our B-roll episode and everything, and he was talking about how, like, oh, he's a morning person, and he'll wake up early in the morning, and he'll have a couple hours before work to, you know, drink coffee and watch a movie or watch a TV show or get some work done on a project or something, and it's all like time to himself, and he cherishes that time and everything because he's married and has a dog and everything, and he refers to it as tiny time, his tiny time, because his name's Tiny, and so. My girlfriend Jess and I have co-opted that name so that whenever that's our shorthand for, like, whenever either of like one of us is just feeling like I don't really want to do anything, I just kind of want to have some alone time, we'll say, like, do we want tiny time? And we'll be like, that's cute. Sure. So that's our shorthand for that. But anyway, not to say that would have worked for the characters in Banshees of Inisherin, but I don't know. I just thought that was a funny anecdote to share on the podcast.
That's cute. I love that.
Thank you. So yeah, but yeah, and there's what's funny is that the Banshees of Inisherin has like that depth to it in terms of the interpersonal conflicts between them and the choices that are made and how those choices reverberate and lead to really shocking and heartbreaking in some cases moments. And I'm too dumb and uneducated to be able to pick up on how that plays into the kind of backdrop of the Irish Civil War that is going on in the background of the movie throughout the entire movie. But it's something that piques my interest to look into it a little bit more because I have no fecking clue what that was all about and everything. But yeah, I just think that there are so many layers to this movie. Yeah.
Nice use of fecking.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done.
Nice. Yep. So yeah, any other thoughts on Banshees of Inisherin?
No, I think we said it.
Sweet. All right. Well, let's hit the listeners with another clip from Patreon. This is the next finalist on the list of the IFJA Top Films of 2022 is Park Chan-wook's Decision to Leave, which I recorded a review of on Patreon for the $5 level. During awards season, I do Patreon potpourris that are specialized for your consideration movies. So basically, I do Patreon potpourri, like the 4 most recent movies that I watched for awards consideration. I talk about them and then release it on Patreon. So that is at the $5 level. This clip comes from Patreon potpourri number 17, in which I discussed Decision to Leave, Goodnight Oppie, Weird, The Al Yankovic Story, and Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. So that was from November of 2022. So here is a clip of me talking about Decision to Leave. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play a clip from the trailer, and then we're going to talk about not Goodnight Oppie, but we're going to talk about Decision to Leave. So here's a clip from the trailer, and then I'm going to talk in non-spoilers about Decision to Leave.
기동수 씨 아내 송설아입니다.
많이 놀라셨겠습니다. 웃는 거 봤어?
So Decision to Leave, I forgot to unmute my mic. Decision to Leave is directed by Park Chan-wook, who previously did The Handmaiden and Old Boy. I have not seen The Handmaiden, but I have seen his revenge trilogy with Old Boy, Lady Vengeance, and Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, I think. I think I got those right. But anyway, he also co-wrote it with Chung Soo-kyung, and it stars Park Hae-lee, Tang Wei, and Lee Jong-hyun. And the plot summary, courtesy of IMDb, is a detective investigating a man's death in the mountains meets the dead man's mysterious wife in the course of his dogged sleuthing. Okay, so Decision to Leave kind of blew me away quite a bit, honestly. I rated it, I think, 4.5 stars. It is in contention for my top 10 of 2022 that I'll be unveiling in January. But man, this movie was just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous, stunning. I put on Letterboxd, my review was, I'll have to sit with this for a while, but it's wonderful. The quiet devastation in these two characters is as engrossing as it is haunting. The noir-heavy story mixes with the romance beautifully, and the ending brings the full picture of these two wayward characters into a shattered focus. Amazing. Wow, I'm kind of proud of that, honestly. But yeah, this movie was absolutely just devastating in such a deeply rooted way, because it explores this weird taboo attraction that the lead character, the detective, has toward this widow. And throughout his investigation and everything, it kind of grows, and he finds himself more and more drawn to her. And as it's not like it's not like a forbidden romance, but it is intensely romantic in a very, very subtle and surprising way, really. It really, really is devastating. And it has this kind of, not triptych, but it has this level of respect, or not respect, but this level of slow burn aspect to it, where this first part, the first half of the movie, is all about Hae-jun, the detective, him going through and putting the pieces together and finding himself so drawn toward the widow, whose name was Siu-rei. And throughout the course of that, we get this incredibly beautifully meditative depiction of his growing attraction. And it is such incredible storytelling. And I love the tagline, actually. The tagline is, "The closer you look, the harder you fall." That is beautiful. But as he gets more and more invested in it, and invested in her and in his attraction to her, he realizes that she may have had something to do with the death. Which it's not that's where the kind of neo-noir aspect of it, aspect of the story goes. But that's almost secondary to everything else, because it is more about this attraction that he feels toward her, and then that she feels toward him. And it has this dividing part where the first half is about his attraction to her, and then the second half is about her kind of attraction to him. And I'm not going to go into detail about what all of that means and what that entails, because I don't want to spoil anything. But it is just this clear deviation, or line of demarcation, I should say, between these two characters that have this growing attraction between one another. And it has this fleeting aspect to it that is just very beautifully portrayed. And what's amazing is that it's all amongst this backdrop of this dead man and this mystery surrounding his death and everything. And it's not even a mystery heavy movie or anything. It's just the way it is. And it's just really immersive and engrossing. And I was really, really just into this movie. My attention was focused on it the entire time, and it has some of the most stunning cinematography I've seen this year. Just all told, it is absolutely gorgeous. The way that Park Chan-wook moves the camera, and the way that the camera focuses in on certain things, and there's these wide shots of there are scenes where Hae-jun is running and chasing suspects and things, and there are these just wide shots, and throughout the whole time he is also looking at he's looking into a suspect in a murder, and then he can't find the suspect and everything, and she eventually helps him to close some cases, because he has this shrine to all of his unsolved murders and everything on the wall, and she sees that as him causing insomnia in him and everything, and causing all of this. So they help each other out in unique ways. And then when we get those scenes, those types of scenes that's kind of neo-noir, action-heavy kind of scenes where it's chasing people on foot, just the scope of it is so massive and so just big and wide angled, and it is gorgeous, absolutely stunning. And then there's another kind of flourish to the creativity in the movie where these characters are like, when these scenes transition to other scenes and the scenes go like are depicting like a chase sequence where he's running after a person, it's cross-cut with him talking in voiceover to CO Ray, who is helping him with the investigation, or helping him kind of get a better frame of mind into what he needs to do and everything. In this overlapping thing, that's in voiceover, it's overlapping, it's edited to where he's getting the information, he's getting the idea to how to solve a case while we're seeing that play out. And it is just this really interesting editing technique where it's like it's overlapping the story in such a unique way, but it comes together in such a beautiful flourish that it just feels like it was really well connected in a way that I was not expecting it to be. And it felt like really almost slightly disorienting at first, but then that kind of really, really lightened a bit as I kind of figured out like how he was doing the story, how the movie was being told, how the story was being told and everything. It was Sympathy for Lady Vengeance and Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. Those were the two, and Old Boy is his revenge trilogy. But anyway, this movie just kind of blew me away. And when it gets to the ending, which again, I'm not going to spoil anything, but it has this just stunningly poignant and heartbreaking kind of conclusion that feels like it is the perfect pin or perfect button on this just very bizarre and romantic story that shouldn't be romantic, but it is. And it's glorious. It's absolutely stunning. I really, really loved this movie, and I wholeheartedly expect it to make my top 10. I don't know where it's going to land on my top 10, but I really think it's going to make the cut, because this is a movie that just is so devastatingly beautiful and just absolutely wonderful. So anyway, that's Decision to Leave. It's not available to stream anywhere. It is in, I think, limited release or wide release now. I think it is playing at the Can if you're in Indianapolis. But I think maybe the Living Room Theater has it as well. But yeah, anyway, that is Decision to Leave. Okay, and we're back. And Sam, you didn't get around to seeing Decision to Leave. Was it just a time thing, or did it not interest you or anything?
Oh, I was interested. It
Nice.
was just a time thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I love Park Chan-wook.
Mhm.
So I'm sure I'll see it eventually. It just the last week or so before the meeting, I planned to cram a bunch of movies, and it just didn't happen.
Such is life. Yeah, I had planned so many things, and then I'm glad that I got what I got, but I could have done more. So I totally get that. But yeah, so that is Decision to Leave, and then now we're going to go to the next finalist, which I don't know how much I talked about this on Patreon, but it is Sarah Pauli's Women Talking, which I talked about briefly in my November 2022 monthly first viewings and stats wrap-up recording for the $10 Patreon supporters. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it to that, and then when we come back, we'll continue the list. So Women Talking is directed by Sarah Pauli, who, it's funny because I think before this, I've really only seen one movie of hers, and that movie is Take This Waltz, which is a movie that just deeply, deeply affected me. Like, I adore that movie. It is one of my favorites. I've watched it maybe twice, and I'm scared to watch it again because the emotional part of it is just like, it is so deeply tied to my emotions, my fears, and everything. It is a very, very well done movie, including in which case it also has like an incredible sequence scored to Leonard Cohen's Take This Waltz at the end that just that it's a beautiful and haunting summation of the movie and the story and everything up to that point. Very, very incredible movie. Loved it so much. And so now she did Women Talking, which is fine. It's about a group of women in a religious like commune who band together to vote on to whether or not they should leave or fight back against the men in the commune for assaults and rapes that have been committed on them. And it is a lot of women talking and voting, and a lot of the movie has a lot of very, very big dramatic moments in dialogue, which is fine, but I think I kind of gave it the short shrift because I watched it kind of late at night and I wasn't really that into it. And I feel like I didn't give it a fair shake, and I should watch it again, but I thought that there were some moving moments to it, but for a filmmaker who has previously like made me bawl my eyes out weeping with Take This Waltz, I was so surprised that I was just pretty much emotionally unaffected by Women Talking. So I don't know, your mileage may vary. I thought it was very well done, very well photographed and well acted, but the emotional resonance just wasn't there for me. It's really interesting too. Like the cinematography is, and the color scheme of it is very, very dry and like washed out, I guess you would say. It looks incredible, but it just didn't really do much for me. Okay, and we're back. And I can't bring us back without laughing because I'm a consummate professional. But Women Talking was pretty good. It was fine. I really like Sarah Polley, but I came away from Women Talking thinking that I should really probably give it another shot at some point. So, yeah.
I'm going to be sort of unprofessional right now.
Okay.
My battery is on it's like lethally low, so
Okay.
I'm going to plug in my charger. But so while I'm doing that, just carry on.
Okay, great. So actually, Oh my God. Now I don't know what to say. Okay. So let me go ahead and share my thoughts. I'm going to skip over the Top Gun Maverick one, and then we'll do that when Sam comes back. But I want to talk about Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, which is a movie that is directed by Dean Fleischer Camp, and it is based on the YouTube sensation of Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. It's basically, the plot summary is feature adaptation of the animated short film interviewing a mollusk named Marcel. And this movie I didn't have anything on Patreon for it because I had fallen behind with my Patreon potpourris and everything. But this movie just immediately jumped to the top of my top 10 list, as you'll see in the year in review episode and in the top 10 list that I'm publishing on obsessiveviewer.com shortly. But Marcel the Shell with Shoes On is such a beautifully done story of grief and life and solitude and loss and just finding the strength and finding strength in community. And that's something that I was just taken by the entire time. Like, I was bawling my eyes out during this movie. It was absolutely just transcendent for me. And I really, really liked the Marcel the Shell with Shoes On YouTube shorts. I really liked what I'd seen of them, and they were very cute, very fun, very, very funny. Jenny Slate does the voice of Marcel, and she's phenomenal. But what I wasn't expecting was that the feature-length adaptation, the feature-length movie, would have such an amazing heart to it and have such a level of just endearing level or whatever. I don't know, have so much to say. So it is on the top of my list. That's Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. It is absolutely just a beautiful, beautiful movie. And Ben actually texted me today and said that, because he loves Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. He said just heard someone talking about Marcel the Shell, and they compared it to the best of Mr. Rogers, and now I think I love it more. And I think that is such an apt comparison. It's amazing. So anyway, that's Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Sam, you're back, and you have not seen Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Is that one that you that is on your radar? And if not, I think it should be. Honestly, I just threw up a bunch of praise for it.
Yeah, I really regret not watching that before the IFJA meeting. Because obviously that won our best animated film of the year. Yeah, I will definitely catch up on that one. Jin loves Marcel the Shell.
Oh, yeah.
And she's shown me a few of the short films. So yeah, I'll definitely get around to it.
I promise you, Jen is going to she's going to love this movie. Like, it is, like I said, like I was bawling my eyes out. Like, I was ugly crying throughout it. Like, Jess had to get tissues for me and everything, and she was crying too. It is such a beautiful movie. I just adore it. Yeah. Yep. So that is Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. And our final finalist before going into the runner-up and winner for this year's IFJA Best Film, let's talk about Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun Maverick is the sequel to Top Gun, which I rewatched shortly before seeing Top Gun Maverick. And honestly, I wasn't a fan of Top Gun, which we'll talk about, but the plot summary for Top Gun Maverick is, after 30 years, Maverick is still pushing the envelope as a top naval aviator, but must confront ghosts of his past when he leads Top Gun's elite graduates on a mission that demands the ultimate sacrifice from those chosen to fly it. Sam, you are an unabashed fan of everything 90s, the 90s aesthetic. So I know that you love Top Gun, and Top Gun Maverick did it for you. Let's talk about Top Gun Maverick and your feelings on Top Gun.
Well, the original Top Gun is honestly pretty goofy. I mean, I love it. I kind of love its corniness. And you know, it's macho energy, but you know, it's pretty goofy. So for Top Gun Maverick to have as much emotional heft as it does is pretty incredible. Like I found myself multiple times getting choked up during it, and it's like I'm getting choked up by the universe of Top Gun.
Yes.
Like, you know, I've said this before, but you know, you're in the hands of master filmmakers when you're watching a jet aerial action sequence and you find yourself getting like a lump in your throat.
Yes.
Top Gun Maverick is it's really awe-inspiring. The aerial cinematography is groundbreaking and really inspiring to watch. Seeing that at the State Museum IMAX was just incredible, and just a great reminder of the magic of movies. And I mean, those actors are really flying, and you know, I think some of them were trained to actually film within their cockpits.
God, that's amazing.
And just that sort of ground level work on a film is really inspiring in this age of so much, not to dismiss computer generated effects, but to see practical effects now is really inspiring. Especially since we both kind of grew up in the age of action movies using practical effects.
Oh yeah. One of my favorite movies growing up, and I haven't really talked about it on the podcast all that much, but Ron Howard's Backdraft.
Oh yeah, that movie's awesome.
Oh, I loved it. It was amazing. So yeah, we are of that generation for sure.
Like I've said before, Tom Cruise is just like an action god.
Yes.
And it's also a really sweet movie. I mean, I think it has a great heart to it. And it's just, I think for that to be our sort of popcorn pick, I think that's a great pick.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I really was impressed by with it, in addition to everything else that you said, that was very well said. I love the way that it shows a vulnerability of Maverick, and that's something that it kind of feels like that's one case where like Tom Cruise has been just like Tom Cruise action star for the last several years, and this is like a level of kind of vulnerability and level of additional pathos to a role that he hasn't really seemed that interested in taking on with like his Mission Impossible films or anything. Although there's some of that, there's plenty of that in there, but this is something that just felt a lot more intimate with his acting and everything. And it's funny you said that, like, getting choked up and getting emotional about a Top Gun movie. It's what is so wonderful to me is that when I rewatched the original Top Gun in preparation for Maverick, I like the one emotional moment in that movie that I'm going to spoil it, where Goose dies. I didn't care. Like, I wasn't that big a fan of Top Gun, and I felt like that was just a little bit like, okay, fine. I know it from pop culture. I remember it from when I saw it when I was a teenager or whenever, but it didn't really do anything for me when rewatching it. But I'll be damned if this movie doesn't just retroactively make me care deeply for just the characters in this story. And it's really, really spectacular. I really liked it.
That's a great way of saying what I was struggling to say, which is it retroactively makes you care for these characters.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a sequence early on where Tom Cruise's character, Maverick, is trying to reach some insane speed with a certain type of jet, and he's like passing out, and he's like up in the stratosphere, and he says, talk to me, Goose. And I was like getting choked up, and I was like, but I didn't even care about Goose dying.
Yeah.
I was like, why am I like crying right now?
Right.
But yeah, that's quite a feat to make you like kind of nostalgic for a movie that is, and to make you nostalgic and sort of misty-eyed for a movie that is pretty goofy. I mean,
yeah.
I love Top Gun Maverick.
Me too. I need to rewatch it because I only saw it the one time in the theater, but it's amazing, and I think it'll tide me over really well until Mission Impossible comes out next year. It's fantastic. So those are the finalists, according to the IFJA, as voted on by the Indian Film Journalists Association. I'll run them down again. We have Tar, After Yang, Glass Onion, The Banshees of Inisherin, Decision to Leave, Women Talking, Top Gun Maverick, and Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Now, Sam, we at the IFJA have a runner-up for Best Film and a winner. Would you like to talk about our runner-up for Best Film of 2022?
Yes, please.
All right. So the runner-up for Best Film is RRR, which is the plot summary courtesy of IMDb, is a fictitious story about two legendary revolutionaries and their journey away from home before they started fighting for their country in the 1920s. This is directed by S.S. Rajamouli. I apologize if I mispronounced that at all, but this is an Indian action film that runs 3 hours long, and the entire time I think my jaw was just on the floor throughout the entirety of the movie. How did you feel about RRR, Sam?
It's just an embarrassment of riches.
Mm-hmm.
The movie, you think that it is at several points as awe-inspiring as it can possibly be, and then it tops itself.
Yep.
Again and again, with these just incredible action sequences. There's also a really awesome dance number.
Yes.
And I've heard some people say that it's corny, and you really need to buy into the fact that it's basically an opera. I mean, it's epic, and it's big, and it's kind of unabashedly operatic. And at one point, if I remember correctly, there's an action sequence where there's like tigers and motorcycles involved. And it's like, how awesome is that?
Oh, yeah.
And it's also a really sweet sort of bromance. The action wouldn't be as compelling if the characters weren't so engaging.
Yeah.
We watched this as part of an annual film festival that some of the IFJA members do called the Fuck Yeah Film Fest. And
yes.
If any movie makes you shout "fuck yeah," it's definitely RRR.
Yes. And it was the last movie we watched that day, and it was amazing. Just that I like my mouth was agape the entire time, and like I put in my Letterboxd review as kind of probably hokey as it sounds and everything, but like my kind of like Letterboxd blurb was that every year there's a movie with like one or two just incredible action sequences that stand out among the pack of every action film of the year. And RRR is like a 3-hour just compilation of those action scenes. Like it is just on an entirely different level, and it is just so badass, so awesome. And it was such a blast. I absolutely loved it. Yeah, it was so cool. And getting to see it with you guys was a lot of fun too.
Oh yeah.
So that's the runner-up for Best Film of 2022 as voted on by the IFJA. I talked about it in my July 2022 monthly first viewings and stats on Patreon at the $10 level, so check that out if you want to support the show. And yes, so now, Sam, shall we go ahead and unveil the winner that has already been announced on all social medias and everything, because the IFJA announced our awards like 2 weeks ago. The winner of the best film of 2022, as voted on by the Indiana Film Journalists Association. Are you ready, Sam?
Hell yeah.
Okay, awesome. It is the Danielses' Everything Everywhere All at Once. In the plot summary, courtesy of IMDb, is an aging Chinese immigrant is swept up in an insane adventure in which she alone can save the world by exploring other universes, connecting with the lives she could have led. This movie is another just bonkers, insane level of high concept and choreography action with this amazing sense of humor that runs throughout it. Like the award sequence, the trophy thing, I'll be vague, but that just stands out in my mind as being just incredibly clever and silly. And the whole, like, there's things I could say, sentences that would make no sense to someone who has not seen this movie, like hot dog fingers are amazing, and the whole sequence of rocks, of sentient rocks, was amazing. And there's a running thing throughout the movie that ties back to the song Story of a Girl, that it's just all of it. It is just so great. So yeah, Everything Everywhere All at Once is the best movie of 2022 per the IFJA voting. Sam, you watched this shortly before the deadline for nominations and everything. And how has it sat with you? I know that you weren't as hot on it as you would hope to be. How do you feel about it?
First, I think it's a great, that this film and RRR make for a great sort of pairing, in terms of their epic quality and their level of ambition. I watched this the day before our awards deliberation meeting, which I feel like put me at a bit of a disadvantage. I feel like I was a little preoccupied. I was kind of nervous about, trying to catch up on everything, everywhere, all at once. So it didn't hit me quite as hard as it seemed to work for you guys. But I did enjoy it very much. I think it's a very good movie. I wasn't quite as bowled over by it. To me, I definitely respect its ambition. I feel like it kind of repeated itself a lot. And I mean, I get the necessity of doing that in a movie that takes place in a universe that has a lot of rules, and I understand kind of the necessity of the repetition, but I feel like its themes were kind of hammered home a little bit, but there was a lot I enjoyed. I mean, you can't complain too much about a movie that gets you choked up with a sequence of rocks talking to each other. I mean, that's quite a feat.
Absolutely.
And Michelle Yeoh is great. You can really feel the weight of her regret and kind of the weight of all these choices she made with her life. I thought the actress who plays her daughter was great. She too made you feel this kind of lifelong weight of the pressure her mother put on her, and I thought it had great acting across the board. I think it's a great group pick for us as the IFJA. But this wouldn't be in my top 10.
That's fair.
I liked it very much. I don't know if I really loved it. I did vote for it in several categories.
Nice.
Just because I wanted to, see it represented, and
yeah.
I feel like voting against it was kind of pointless given the popularity of it within the group.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that kind of wraps up my feelings on it.
Nice. Yeah, and it's also worth mentioning. I believe we gave the supporting performance either runner-up or win to Ki-Hu Kwan, who played Short Round in Temple of Doom, and is now having his own little renaissance in his career. So with Everything Everywhere All at Once, and he was great in the movie. Yeah. So any other thoughts on the IFJA awards in general, and the list of 10 best films from 2022?
No, I think it's a great list. I feel like it's an eclectic list with a lot of diverse stories and voices in there. And yeah, I'm happy with it. I do need to catch up on a lot of it, which is kind of embarrassing, but
you're fine. Yeah, I'm eager to hear your thoughts on a fair amount of them that you haven't seen. I'm very curious what you'll think of Glass Onion in particular. But yeah,
I will keep you posted. I'm definitely going to watch it soon.
Nice. Well, before we go, I'm gonna kind of wind us down a little bit because I've stolen enough of your evening. But before we go, what kind of off the top of your head, what are some movies from 2023 that you're looking forward to, or that you're excited about going into the new year?
Let's see. I am excited about the new Scorsese film, Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yep.
Brendan Fraser apparently plays the sort of villain in that.
I forgot that he's in it. That's awesome. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm definitely excited about that. Shit, man. What else is coming out?
Well, we've got the one that I'm I don't even know if I'd say most excited about, but I'm very excited. Well, yeah, most excited about is Scream 6. I'm very excited for that.
Oh, duh. Scream 6.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
And that comes out pretty soon, right?
Yeah, I think March 10th. Yep.
Oh, it's not that soon.
Yeah, no, it'll be sooner than you think.
I love the concept of Ghostface in New York.
Me too.
That train sequence from the teaser trailer is great.
Oh yeah.
I love the sort of fun design of the title that highlights 6. Yeah, I can't wait. That'll be fun.
Yeah, me too. I'm still just so impressed that that they pulled off Scream 5 so well. I mean, it's the movie I've watched the most times in 2022. I'm not going to say how many, but yeah, I've rewatched it several times. It is just a glorious movie, and I can't wait for Scream 6. I really can't. I'm looking at a list of 2023 movies that I have privated on my Letterboxd, but I'm just going to run down a couple. We talked a lot about practical effects, and even though I'm kind of a little bit cold on Nolan as a director, I'm very curious what Oppenheimer is going to look like and how that's going to play.
Duh, Oppenheimer. I don't know why I forgot all of these.
Yeah. I did put you on the spot here, so
Yeah, I was really impressed with the latest trailer for that. Yeah. Oh, and speaking of practical effects, yeah, I think there's an explosion sequence done without CGI, which sounds pretty incredible.
Oh yeah.
It's also just an interesting story. I don't know much about Oppenheimer or
Me neither.
really the origin of the atomic bomb. So yeah, I'm curious to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A few other titles I'll throw out are Dune Part 2. Excited about that. Cocaine Bear looks fun and interesting. Yeah. And speaking of practical effects, it's not practical effects. How do you feel about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny also?
Oh, I'm excited for it. I hope this is the last one. Harrison Ford's getting a little little long in the tooth for it.
Yeah.
There's a funny meme going around that says something like, him refusing to retire as a history professor is the most accurate thing about that movie or something.
Nice.
Or that franchise.
Yeah.
But yeah. The effects look a little shoddy.
Yeah, I'm curious if they're finished. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe they're just not finished, so hopefully they look better in the finished product, but yeah.
And this one is not directed by Spielberg. This is James Mangold.
Correct.
Okay. He's an interesting filmmaker. I'm curious what he'll do with it. I
love his Twitter presence in terms of his response to people theorizing or spreading rumors and stuff. It's kind of a treat to see him kind of take them down, but we'll see what he does with the finished product. Hopefully it's good. Yeah, and then the final two ones, I don't remember if I said this or not, but Creed 3, Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut there. I'm excited for that, judging from the trailer. And then I don't know if this is even coming out in 2023. It says that it is, but I just realized who's directing it. Oh, that's a bummer. Gran Turismo, directed by Neil Blomkamp. Gran Turismo is a very fun, interesting, immaculately detailed video game franchise on PlayStation. And I'm very curious what a movie version of that is going to look like. The plot summary on Letterboxd is the ultimate wish fulfillment tale of a teenage Gran Turismo player whose gaming skills won him a series of Nissan competitions to become an actual professional race car driver. So I don't know what it's going to look like, but I think it could be interesting. But that's what I got for 2023. Sam, any other thoughts before we wind down for the evening?
I just remembered that I think the Crow reboot is coming out next year.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I think Bill Skarsgård is playing Eric Draven. The Crow is one of my all-time favorite movies, and I'm kind of cautiously optimistic about the reboot.
Interesting.
Mostly because The Crow is so perfectly 90s that I feel like it should really just be left alone. I feel like it kind of belongs in that era. But I will obviously be first in line to see the reboot.
Nice.
So yeah, that's about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sam, for joining me to count down the best films of the year according to the IFJA. And for everyone listening, you can find links to Sam's work in the show notes of this episode, which can also be found at obsessiveviewer.com/OV387. Like I said at the top of the episode, he wrote a great review of The Whale. He also has reviews of The Fabelmans, A Christmas Story Christmas, Tar, and a bunch of other stuff over on Midwest Film Journal. And you can follow him on Letterboxd at Sam Movie Man. Sam, thanks again, man. This is obviously, it's such a treat to get to talk to you and everything anytime, but it's great to be able to record it.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, ditto.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on. It's always fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. So I'm going to go ahead and start playing us out. My top 10 list is going to be on obsessiveviewer.com. The link will be in the show notes here, probably. But we're going to take a couple of weeks off from the podcast as Mike, Tiny, and I put together our year in review episode, which should be coming out mid-January. So hope you guys are having a very happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2023. And now, enjoy this short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. For the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, such as early access to episodes, TV, book, and movie reviews and reaction recordings, commentary tracks, and Patreon potpourri episodes, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy. Have you seen When Harry Met Sally?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Classic.
Yeah.
Of course.
I was just thinking, like, you seem like a When Harry Met Sally kind of guy. So
I take that as a high compliment.
I mean it as a high compliment. I love that movie.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that movie's lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That makes me want to, maybe I'll watch some rom-coms over my holiday break.
Hell yeah.
They're just so pleasant.
They are. And even when they're like the most formulaic thing in the world, like it's that comfort food thing. It is that comfort. Yeah. And it's like there are different types of movies that give me comfort too. Like I love a good horror movie or a good like action movie, and everything. But there's something about rom-coms where like the stakes are always spectacularly low, and the formula is so spectacularly obvious that it's just so like when I was watching How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, I flirted with the idea of tweeting this, but I didn't end up tweeting it. But when it got to about, the final, like the third act, the big show of like romantic gesture and everything, when it got to that moment, I almost like tweeted and put something stupid like, nothing gives me more vigor in when I'm working from home than the moment in a rom-com where the man is chasing after the woman and he's racing to get to the airport before she takes off, and it's scored to the Gin Blossoms. And like I hadn't seen How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and like that scene, I mean, granted, I typed it or I thought of that when it was happening, so I knew the Gin Blossoms were to that scene. But like I was like, oh my god, this is before he's even like going to the airport, and I'm like, oh my god, I called it, but he didn't actually go to the airport. It was a whole thing. But anyway,
what Gin Blossom song is it?
Oh god, what was their big one?
This podcast was edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. You can find links to all of our shows at ObsessiveViewer.com/podcasts. For exclusive bonus content, including reviews, commentaries, and B-roll episodes, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.